Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Braden, Tim, Second Legacy, you're amazing. And oh, do we have a show for you today. It turns out all those new gun owners that didn't exist, but they do exist, yeah, they just passed the population of Florida. You guys are going to love every second of this because you can almost hear, if you're really, really quiet, the gun controllers scream in the night. Everything that we're about to show you is for the betterment of the Second Amendment, wrapped up with delicious sarcasm and humor. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And with that, Tim, we are going to take a dive into freedom that is expanding into realms that the left does not want. The new gun buyer.
Really? Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this article is all about. So
I know.
Looking forward to this.
I'm excited. Well, let me tie it together with you because this is such a beautiful weaving of things we've covered in the past. I love when these things come to fruition. So the new gun owners. God, I just had my own joke in my own head, and I thought you were going to hit it, and I cracked myself up. All right, enough of that. So, new gun owners, you're familiar. The new demographics, the people who've never bought guns before, primarily people of color and women. Those buckets, right? Well, we have more new gun owners, first-time gun buyers since 2020 than the population of currently in Florida. Nice. 22.3 million people have bought the first gun ever in the last 4 years.
And what happened in 2020?
I had a really good BM.
Well, besides that, there's that. But, so did the rest of the country because a big BM wound up in the White House and freaked everybody out.
Oh, yeah, it'd be like that. It's weird how the combination of a pandemic and a Biden really encouraged some people to get out there and buy that gun for the first time.
Yeah.
That's odd.
It was
because, but Tim, if memory serves, though, I was told that the very existence of a gun means more crime is going to ensue, right? I mean, that's what we were told because more guns equals more crime, right?
Yeah. Because if guns made us safer, we'd be the safest nation in the world and whatever else they say. Yeah.
Exactly. Those things. Well, if I may support some evidence here, I'm going to jump around on Dr. Slides real quick. I would just like to throw up number 11. This is from the source NSSF, a small organization. You may have heard of them, kind of does SHOT Show and stuff. These are the cumulative firearms that have been purchased since 1993. Well, that's a pretty stark rising, right? Well, if that's happening, and again, we've covered this one, number 10, this is the violent crime rate in the United States. Pretty much on the surface, the left's talking point of more guns equals more crime is dead. Pretty much gone.
Yeah. Well, this is the Safe First Community Act, Braden, that was retroactively applied back to 1991 in this chart.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Davey Hogg reminds us.
It was Biden's greatest achievement,
yes,
which he did in 2022, but it retroactively brought the crime down from 1990.
Yes.
Henceforward. Bro,
that was the most.
If I didn't have you here.
Yeah, it's the most incredible piece of legislation ever because the first time in history we passed quantum legislation. And basically it's like a quark. You ever heard of a quark? It's a little subatomic particle that moves faster than the speed of light and actually goes backwards in time as it's going forward. It's really cool. And that's what they accomplished legislatively. So when they go out there and say that they did the most comprehensive gun control in 30 years, they're not talking about like gun control. They're talking about the quark nature of their legislation that retroactively brought crime down from 1990. Yeah, it's amazing. Totally amazing stuff.
That does make sense, how Biden did save us all. It does. Does it require a flux capacitor to do it, or is this something totally different?
It does.
Does it need a DeLorean?
The version that uses biofuel from the later movies. Yes, absolutely.
The upgraded one.
Yes.
Not the one with plutonium where some terrorists are going to shoot us in a parking lot. No. Not that one. Okay. What a great movie. But Tim, that was fun. That was a fun hypothetical. I'm glad we finally figured out what caused the crime to come down in the 90s.
Yes.
It was the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act of 2022.
Right.
Totally obvious. Well, if I may postulate another option.
Okay.
This is number 6. This is a statement from Mark Oliva, who is the Managing Director of Public Affairs for the NSSF. He attributed the surge of new owners to COVID-era lockdowns. It's weird. Soft on crime prosecutors who forced residents across the 50 states to realize they could not always rely on law enforcement and the Biden administration's overbearing regulations. Well,
yeah.
I mean, that does hold a little bit more water than your quark quantum theory Bipartisan Safe Communities Act requiring the DeLorean with biofuel flux capacitor. But I think both are options.
They are.
I do think both are options.
Yeah. They're both very plausible. But yeah, like I was saying, 2020 was well, look, this dates back to the Obama era. I mean, it used to be until Joe Biden took office, Obama was the greatest gun salesman of American history.
He was.
And then Joe Biden took office. And he's been an abysmal failure at everything he's ever touched, with the exception of increasing gun sales and gun ownership in the United States. Now, keep in mind, his stated goal is to bring gun ownership down, but being the F up that he is, he's actually increased it some more. To the point...
It's the old backfire.
Exactly. I mean, even his son is so confident he can just go out and buy guns and throw them in dumpsters outside of schools. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. It really is. I'll tell you what, the Bidens are really a boon for the gun world. I'll tell you. And something... kind of an aside here. Every single freaking thing that they've done to try to squelch the 2A has pretty much backfired.
Almost like that trial in New York.
Exactly. Almost like that thing where they got Trump for nothing and then $400 million flooded into his coffers in like 5 days.
Yeah.
He's flipping red, blue states red. Cats and dogs are sleeping together. It's crazy.
I call Trump the QuickBooks felon. Yeah.
He is. He should be. That's what he should be known forever. You got to classify those hush payments, man. You got to classify them right, because if you don't, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating that the ATF, which is what basically the bulldog of the executive branch for the Biden administration has been, where they got smoked on pistol brace rules recently. That one, ouch. They got ghost guns going before the Supreme Court. They got smoked on what's the other ones? Good Lord, there was pistol braces. Engaged in business. The dealing of a business.
Yeah, and then the reclassifying of what a firearm is.
Yep. It hasn't been a good 2 years for the Biden administration, but man, did they try to milk that for everything that was worth. But anyway.
But hey, Biden's saving the world, man. Look at all this crazy stuff. Yep. He's bringing crime down, is what they're saying today.
Yep.
Because,
well, you didn't know?
A month ago, crime was out of control and we got to do something, reelect Joe Biden. And that wasn't resonating with voters in the focus groups. And so they're like, oh, no, wait a minute. Crime is suddenly down. You know what we said last week? Ignore that. We just discovered last night crime's actually down 20, 30, 40%.
And it has nothing to do with only 13,000 out of 19,000 law enforcement's reporting.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that.
So when all else fails, if you're losing an election, cook the books. We'll just make up something.
QuickBooks it.
It's like,
just QuickBooks it. It's all good.
Yeah. Basically that's what they're doing here. They have 40% of municipalities, which includes Los Angeles and New York City, folks, aren't reporting crime data to the FBI. And Biden and his paid propagandists all over social media out there taking a victory lap. We lowered crime. Because you're not reporting it.
It's so funny. But Tim, I think this is a really important piece. We have two options here, and we can do both. We don't have to do one or the other. I personally favor this one. So if crime's going down so much because they fixed it magically, then we probably don't need to have any kind of calls or funding for gun control, right? Because crime went down so much.
Yeah,
we probably don't.
It's working, right?
There's not really a need for it anymore.
Let's sit back and see what happens here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's odd. I wonder if they're gonna. Anyway, probably not. How about this, Tim? And this is something I think is incredibly important for the 2A space and the 2A world. This is number 7. This is some great stuff. Midway through 2020, first-time gun owners accounted for approximately 40% of buyers, according to the NSSF. The normal is usually around 20 to 24%, they said. In 2020, the NSSF said there were approximately 8.4 million new first-time gun owners. You realize how much of a detriment that is to the gun control movement? 8.4 million people went from the maybe I don't know into the I own a gun now.
To put this into perspective, that's like the entire city of Chicago all buying guns in a year.
Yep. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yep. They don't even realize it on the full face, but they are still trying to do those scare tactics and scare campaigns of like, if you own a gun, you're 9 times more likely to stub your toe in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Unless you pay a $200 tax.
In which case you won't stub your toe. You'll have little iron toes. Exactly. Nailed it. Well, you want to know what Mark from NSSF kind of postulates this will equate to? And I think he might have a point.
Yeah, let's hear this one.
All right, this is number 8. So Oliva highlighted the impact. No, Oliva, sorry, highlighted the impact the new gun owners could have on the upcoming elections. Well, that's weird because that's a political. Okay. These are gun owners who, prior to buying a gun, didn't consider what this right meant to their lives and personal freedom, he said, so personal experience. That will be a consideration in this election. This could be a factor in the upcoming election as people take into account the government's willingness to infringe upon their rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a very salient point. When you don't own a gun and people are trying to infringe on gun rights, you go, okay, that's a little icky, but I don't own one. When you own a gun and you see people trying to infringe upon your gun rights, it's a whole different feeling.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot more people who didn't own guns before, that's a lot more people having that uncomfortable feeling. Just saying.
Yep. Of those 23 million new gun owners from 2020 to present, I wonder how many of them are going to realize that the firearms that they purchased, those in the Democrat Party that bought them, do they realize that the Democrats literally want to take them away and turn them into criminals? It's really surprising. Like when we have folks come in the shop that there are first-time gun buyers are just, kicking the tires looking to buy one. When you start breaking down some of the laws and the intents of the Democrat Party, people get a little bit freaked out. They're like, really? That's going on? They just don't know. See, for us,
right?
we live in this world, right? This is something we talk about every single day of our lives. But to the average American, the average gun owner that went out and bought a SIG brace 3-4 years ago, they had no idea ATF was trying to reclassify them. And if that had stuck, which thankfully it hasn't so far, if that had stuck, they would have been felons and they didn't even know they were felons. But it wouldn't save them from prison unless their last name's Hunter Biden. Oh, we don't know that yet, though. We don't know that, to be fair.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But anyway, they just don't know that. So when you tell people, the government may change the rules here and that firearm you're buying may become illegal and you may not know it until you get arrested for the awful crime of being in possession of something you bought when it was perfectly legal, they go, they can do that? It's like, yeah, they've been doing it. And I hope that they pay attention when these conversations are had now that they're in the 2A community, because they do need to change their voting habits if they intend to keep their rights and their freedoms. Just saying.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a fair thing to say. So, well, that's all I really had for you, my man. I think that's a good way to wrap. Yeah, that's all I had. I mean, unless you had something delicious you wanted to add. You have like a Snickers or something?
There's a joke there, but I'm going to leave it alone. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.